Hi, I'm Matt,
And I'm Christy.
and we're the Pros family, and we are excited to be planting a brand new, life-giving church in Omaha. I grew up in church all my life. I got to my teenage years, and like so many others, even though I understood the motions of how God worked and how church worked, I had never really let God in for myself. I had never had that encounter with God. And I was in a moment in my life where I was angry with God. I had taken a stand for God, and as a result, I had lost every friend that I had. I felt lonely, and I began to doubt the existence of God. My parents, they made me go to summer camp that year at our church, and I remember being at camp on the fourth night, and I had been struggling all week long. And they had just done an altar call in that service to call young people forward for prayer for something. I don't even remember what it was, but I remember saying to God, I need you to reveal yourself to me. And so I went forward, and one of the youth leaders, his name was Mark, he laid his hands on my shoulders, and halfway through his prayer, he stopped, and he looked at me. He said to me, "Matt, you're not up here for what everyone else here is up here for, are you?" And I said, "No." And he looked at me and he said, "Matt, God wanted me to tell you that he's real, that he loves you, and he has an incredible plan for your life." In that moment, I had encountered God. And it set the course here so many years later for things that God's put inside of us for the purpose of our church.
And I was actually at that very same camp. We didn't even know each other at that point, and God did amazing things in my life as well. Like Matt, I grew up with incredible parents in an incredible home where I was raised in church, and they taught me right from wrong. They taught me about God. And I always remember looking back, loving God's house. But it was at that camp that I can look back and I really see that at that moment, something like was awakened inside of me, and a new passion was birthed for even greater things. And it was at that moment that I really gave everything to God and said, "God, I want to give my entire life to you, and whatever that means, whatever that requires, that I'm willing to give it to you, and I want as much of you as I can possibly have." So in that moment, at that same camp, that same night, both of our lives were radically changed, direction, shift course, for all that God had, the birth of a new beginning. Really.
And we didn't even know each other yet, and this all happened. And here we are 21 years later, and we've had the privilege of working on a church in St. Louis for the past 14. And all this time, God's been birthing this vision and dream inside of us that came from that night many, many years ago. Through this process of serving on staff in our local church, about 7.5 years ago, God began to speak to Christy and I that we would one day pastor a church. And through a conversation that we had with someone, the city of Omaha came up, and it wouldn't leave me. I would research it every night before bed, and eventually I had to tell Christy about it. And that summer of 2010, we took our kids up there just to see what it was like here. It was a great experience, but we knew that our time of preparation still needed to happen further. And so about 1.5 years ago, God began to work in our hearts strongly that now would be the time to move up here and plant Glow Church here. And we couldn't be more excited about this opportunity. Mm-hmm. Nothing brought us here in the way of people or relationships or contacts. It's just God putting this place in our heart so we know it's from Him. What do we see when we see Glow Church? Well, it comes out of that experience we had 21 years ago. Our mission statement is to help people discover that God is real, He loves them, and has an incredible plan for their life. Our core values at Glow Church come out of the book of Matthew chapter 5, where Jesus was empowering the people in verse 16 to let their light shine bright. We genuinely believe that God created us to reflect the source of light that we spend time with, and He is the light. So when we have a day-to-day conscientious walk and encounter with Jesus Christ, before we step foot out our front door, our light is already shining. It's drawing opportunities for us to minister in a dark world. It means we're glowing. And so when people come to Glow Church, we want them to encounter God, experience freedom, have an empowered purpose, and ultimately to encourage others. We want to be known as the church where people come to encounter God and then go out into the world and be an encouragement to those around us. What else do we see about Glow Church?
Well, a couple of the core things that we really envision that really excite us, that we're really passionate about. Number one, it doesn't matter who you are. Whatever background you come from, whatever your past, wherever you're at now, Glow Church is a place where you will always be welcome. When you come, you're part of a family that cares about you. The other thing that is a huge core value is encouragement. Just like Matt said, going out and encouraging others, we want Glow Church to be the most encouraging place that you encounter all week long. Yeah. When you walk in the doors, you may come in one way, but you leave super encouraged, so you can go and give that to someone else. And the third thing that we're really passionate about is families. We believe with all our heart that families, a strong family, is the most powerful force that is currently on this earth right now. Yet families are more broken than they ever have been. And we really have a desire to see that changed. At Glow Church, we want you to feel like you have someone to do life with. Family isn't the easiest thing to figure out how to be strong at and how to do well. So we want you to have someone to walk hand in hand with you to help you become that strong family that God has always intended for you to be. But church doesn't just exist within those four walls. It's not just about a Sunday service. That's just the starting point. It's a catapult. We see people being able to build relationships through more intimate, smaller group settings, outreaches that are happening, that your light is shining bright, that you're glowing in the community, and that church exists outside the four walls.
So bottom line, what we envision are people, all kinds of people, all cultures, all backgrounds, all ages, all locations coming together, and to see them grow in their walk with God, go out into their world in the week, and ultimately to glow with the love and the encouragement of Jesus. God has given us a big vision for Glow Church. We plan to launch our first service this September, but Christy and I, we know that we can't do this alone. It's gonna take prayer, it's gonna take preparation, and it's gonna take partnership. And we want to give you some ways on how you can become involved in this great vision that God has given us for Glow Church. Number one, we would ask that you would pray for our church. Commit time to pray. You can go to our website and fill out the information so we can keep you posted on everything that we've got going on. Number two, we would ask that you would prayerfully consider investing financially in Glow Church. We have a $175,000 budget. It covers everything from our marketing to the equipment that we're going to purchase, our facility rentals, and all of the investment it's going to take to build a launch team through interest meetups and parties and launch trainings and all that it's going to take to launch this church with excellence. If you feel led to give to Glow Church, you can do so by going to glowchurch.life or the information below where you can mail in also to help us, and we are incredibly grateful. And then number three, we would love for you to pray about being part of our launch team. It's going to take a big team of people with multiple talents to come together to pull off services, to be a volunteer base, musicians and children's people and people of all different administrative and technical support. It's going to take a talented and awesome team to be able to do something like this. And so maybe you're watching this and God's speaking to your heart and you would love to be a part of what God's doing in the baby stages, the early stages of what God wants to do in Glow Church. If you want to do any of these things, you can go to our church website, fill out the information. We will be more than happy to follow up with you and connect with you further.
We are so excited to see all that's going to happen in Omaha. We are so excited about all that God is doing, already is doing, all that He's going to do. So thank you so much for being a part. Thank you so much for praying. Thank you so much for giving. Thank you so much for doing this with us. We're better together.
All right, ready, set, glow.